Good morning, all. This is the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz here at 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. It is December 7th, 2020, and we're here for another great show. I am your host, Amanda Marino, and I am with my lovely co host
Ryan Trick.
and our amazing newscaster.
Kyle Pepitone.
Awesome. We got an exciting show for everyone today. Winter's coming, I guess. I don't know if you guys got a chance to step outside today, but it is so cold.
Oh,
I didn't get a chance to go outside, but I looked at the weather app, and that's pretty much the same thing.
I can feel it in my room. The heater doesn't like to reach where I am currently sitting. So if you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube after the fact, you can see I am both wearing a beanie and a hoodie at my desk.
Yeah, it is really cold. I was walking from my car to the studio, and it was just so cold. Like, I'm just not prepared for winter yet. And I think just being home, I feel like I'm still in March already. So, like, the fact is, like, March never really ended to begin with. And it was just kind of like we got a few weeks where it was warm, and then it was like, now we're back. But we have a great show. But before we get into the rest of the show, Kyle, you want to hit us with that newscast?
Yes, I do. According to AP News, this Thursday, the Food and Drug Administration is set to hold an advisory panel to greenlight the emergency use of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine. Once authorized, vaccinations could be available just days later. However, widespread vaccinations are not projected to be available until spring of 2021. In local news, MontclairLocal.news says that schools in the Montclair area are expected to go back in late January. Last Wednesday, the superintendent of Montclair Schools, Jonathan Pons, announced 2 dates where hybrid classes are to begin. Kindergarten through 5th grade will resume on the 25th of January, and middle school and high school are set to go back on the 8th of February, which, if I'm not mistaken, is also when we're set to go back for the spring semester, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
In addition to that, students who would like to continue with the virtual learning have the option to do so. And finally, in good news, the Good News Network reports that Starbucks have announced that all month long, they will be giving free coffee to frontline responders as a thank you for their bravery in dealing with the coronavirus. Vice President of Starbucks, Virginia Tenpenny, said, quote, "We want to show our deep gratitude for those who support and protect us every day with a small gesture of kindness and a cup of coffee," end quote. Doctors, pharmacists, firefighters, law enforcement officers, dentists, and mental health workers, among others, are all classified as frontline workers and are eligible for free coffee. Now, in checking the weather, like I mentioned before, in Manalapan, it is currently 28 degrees outside and partly cloudy for most of the day. There's a 10% chance of snow now, not rain, snow, and a sunset at 4:31 p.m. So if you are having a good morning, I'm pretty sure I just ruined it for you.
No, I'm sure. I hope everybody out there is still having a good morning nonetheless.
Yes.
It is approximately cold as heck out.
Yes.
We're finally getting into winter. I'm glad we're finally getting into winter, although
For
it does
sure.
mean I'm going to need to wrap up in significantly more blankets
Very true.
than I would on a normal day. Put my tree up this weekend, actually.
Oh, exciting.
So maybe
So
I'll sit by the fire by
getting in
my
the Christmas
tree,
spirit a little bit, right?
get into the spirit, and maybe while I'm at it, I'll watch some sports. What a segue into the sports cast. Ryan White couldn't make it today, so I'm going to give you guys a little esports rundown. We have the Overwatch League coming up. The Overwatch League's The Gauntlet North America tournament is going to start this Thursday, December 10th, with Knockout Stage Day 1 starting at approximately 2 p.m. Pacific. And that is going to be going all the way through the 20th for the show matches. More on that later. And also, and this is kind of both sports news and good news, hashtag Gaming Without Barriers is a trending thing in esports and in the gaming world to basically provide gaming accessibility to a lot of people. Well, the Polish Esports League just finished up their matches from December 4th through the 6th. And they were the first competition to implement a new program that provided sign language opportunities for people who wanted to watch the tournament. This is the first time that this has been done in an esports tournament, and they are working on implementing an esports sign language dictionary for hashtag gaming without barriers. That's all I have for your little esports sportscast. Back to you, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh God. Oh no.
It's the top of the show, and Amanda's already done.
Yeah, I'm already done
But
with you, Ryan.
all about it.
That was a great sportscast, though. Thank you for stepping in for Ryan, which is Ryan, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but let's get into the first story. Why not? So health officials warn Americans not to let their guard down. And Ryan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is something we've been talking a lot about on the Buzz specifically, how we keep saying, wear your mask, and we're there, but we're not there yet. Like we're so close. We have this vaccine coming out, but we're not there yet. So we can't let people like let up on the social distancing and the masks and stuff. Correct me. We have talked about
No, it's true. That's we have been saying that, and I'm over here. I was reading the article, and I'm over here thinking like, well, heck, why aren't they paying me to say this kind of stuff? But
True.
nevertheless, yeah, we are cases are beginning to spike again here in the U.S. The FDA advisory panel is scheduled actually coming up to take up a request on Thursday to authorize emergency use of Pfizer's vaccine. And it is estimated that I believe 40 million vaccines are going to come out, assuming they get approval. That will be starting on the 15th. Priority is obviously going to frontline workers, first responders. And they plan on using the 40 million vaccines to fully vaccinate 20 million people. So one thing that I talked about on the Friday Buzz that I want to reiterate to all our listeners is when a vaccine comes out, it's not just going to be a, magic shot and you're fully there. It's going to be a one shot, and you still need to stay safe for a couple of weeks before you get your second dose. That second dose is when you're considered fully vaccinated. So these first 40 million vaccines that are coming out, they're planning on saving half of them to basically fully vaccinate 20 million people. So the idea is they give 20 million people the first half of the vaccines that are produced, and then they wait a couple of weeks, sit on them, keep them until those people can get vaccinated again. But that said, just like you said, Amanda, just like I've said, and just like everybody here on the Buzz has been saying for months, we can't let our guard down yet. Dr. Deborah Birx, the White House coronavirus response coordinator, actually said to NBC, quote, "The vaccine's critical, but it's not going to save us from this current surge. Only we can save us from this current surge," end quote.
Yeah, and with that, it's the same thing as like, even if you get the vaccine and you're one of the first people to get a vaccine, or you get a vaccine in the next round of people, it doesn't mean we're going to stop wearing masks either. As much as you might be more safe and you might feel more comfortable to get into a gathering or something, masks are still going to be pretty prominent for, I think, most of, if not all of 2021. As much as that is not the thing that people want to hear, it's just how it is. Because all right, if this vaccine, everything gets approved, Dr. Fauci said that it was going to be about like April or May that we can get widespread, that you can kind of walk into like your local drugstore and you could actually like just get the vaccine. Okay, April, May. So it's April, May, and then you have to start getting back to kind of some level of normal, which will probably take majority of the summer. So if we're lucky, maybe the fall, but I would even say to the end of the year. And I think that's okay too. If that means safety to a sense, I think that's okay.
Well, I guess to kind of contradict a little bit what you're saying, I think that it's not going to take to the fall. I can actually imagine, because, and this is a question that we've asked a lot of people is, would you get the vaccine day one it comes out? And that's been a question we've been asking on the Buzz, but I think now, that question isn't really relevant, because day one the vaccine comes out, it's not available to us.
But like, you have to realize, like, people are still not going to get it right away because we have things like conspiracy theories and things like that that are coming out, and people are just like, I don't want a vaccine. Some people are really much like, I don't want a vaccine. I've heard people say it to me.
Yeah, but
So like I think
I
there's
do
still going to
think a
be that issue.
majority of the population will want to get vaccinated, though. I think enough of the population would want to be vaccinated and be willing to do so. And then, of course, we're going to be reporting on the whole anti-vaxxer thing. I know it's going to come up.
It's already
I'm
happening.
dreading reporting on it. It's going to happen, whatever. But, for all the anti-vaxxers out there, and if you don't like being called an anti-vaxxer, whatever, for all the people who don't believe in vaccines, for some reason, let me rephrase that. For all the people who don't believe in modern medicine,
modern science.
yeah, modern medicine, modern science, and just base logic, I really got nothing to say to you. It's if you want to stay safe and stay healthy, this is how we do it. Honestly, I mean, we've said this so many times before. Some people might think the vaccine has been rushed. I think that the culmination of almost the entire human population, like, of the world working on one cause is the reason that we knocked this vaccine out in less than a year.
True.
The fastest vaccine to come out before this, I believe, was the mumps, and that took 4 years to develop. And that was the fastest vaccine before this. This took less than a year.
I actually saw something recently too that people were saying, okay, so if this happened, why can't we have a cure for like cancer and for all these other things? And it's like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You have to realize this is a virus, not a disease or whatever. Like, people have been studying cancer for years. It's not the same thing.
A lot of the world has been studying cancer for years. Yeah. And and I understand cancer hits very close to home for a lot of people. It especially has hit close to home for a lot of us here at the station. But it's the difference between, and I can't stand it when people make that argument too, is because, like you said, cancer is a whole different thing. Cancer is, first of all, I don't even know how many different kinds of cancer.
Yeah.
And also, cancer isn't viral. We have like experience dealing with viruses. As much as we don't know, or as much as we didn't know about this thing, which, to be honest, if you go back and look at our old episodes, which you can check out on YouTube and on Facebook,
nice plug.
Yes, the plug. And we'll be talking about stuff where, if you compared it to now, that stuff is no longer true. We were talking about how masks were to keep other people safe. Now it's not just to keep other people safe. It was found, hey, they also are for protecting yourself.
Yeah.
It's not just for other people.
No,
which
for sure.
Yeah, which is, and so basically we're learning more and more stuff about this every day. But as much as we didn't know about it, we knew it was a virus. And we have approaches to viruses before, and we've dealt with viruses before.
And that comes with the other idea too of, what you said about going back to our old shows. Like, I went back to some of our old shows and we were saying like, oh, this will probably be over in a few months. Like, it's the end of the year now.
Well, I would like to point out, I did always estimate spring 2021.
Okay. Well, no matter what, things change, and I think a lot of people have a difficulty understanding that science is always changing. Like, we will never have like the most accurate, like, we might have more of an accurate than we did, but people are discovering this. Like, this virus was new to everybody. It wasn't just new to the general population. This was new to science. This was new to everything. So they're still doing studies. I mean, we're seeing all these random symptoms. Like, we're seeing that like people had different strains of this said virus. So it's like, it's always changing. We're learning new things every day. Like we just said, the mask thing, we learned that the masks protect both people, not just the one. And I think that's just important to keep in mind as we kind of progress into the winter and progress into having a vaccine pretty soon.
Yeah. And, leading up to the vaccine, as good as it is to be hopeful, and I do encourage people to be hopeful. We do now know, a few months ago, sure, if you wanted to, be pessimistic, you can make the argument, oh, we don't know when the heck this thing is going to end, yada, yada. But now it is good to be slightly optimistic and hopeful. And I do encourage people to do so as a little humanitarian PSA, I guess, is we do know when vaccines are going to be coming out. Estimated, we do know when they're starting to be coming out. Of course, there's always the chance of production delays, of things happening. Who knows? We might see anti-vaxxers marching in the streets, whatever. Point being, there is a little bit of hope. That said, don't take that and use that as an excuse to go out and do things like we reported on 1 week ago, where people there was like that 400 person party in the middle of Manhattan, in some apartment building, which still blows my mind. I don't know how you can fit 400
And
people in any apartment in Manhattan.
with that being said, too, like we said, like we're still learning, we're seeing people doing these things. We've learned now in the process that not anybody is immune. We're seeing people obviously get the virus twice. We're seeing younger people get it, and at first they thought younger people couldn't get it. And it's just important that the situation is always changing.
Yeah,
And that's
and
something to keep in mind.
yeah, and just a reminder, just because you are asymptomatic doesn't mean you're immune. Immune means you basically can't get it, your body doesn't take, like the infection. There is a chance you are asymptomatic. It feels like just allergies. I think, in my personal opinion, I believe that's one of the reasons we've had cases spiking over the fall, is because a lot of people get allergies in the fall. So people would just, I think, assume that they just had allergies. And of course, we also had the election and a lot of things happening over Thanksgiving and things like that. But,
For sure.
nevertheless, again, just because a vaccine is coming out, I do encourage people to be hopeful, because it's important to be hopeful in times like this, especially now. As good as it is to be hopeful, you also need to be realistic. That said, please listen to the CDC, listen to your state officials. You might not agree with them politically. I understand that. However, that doesn't mean that, rebelling against them and not wearing a mask, or if you're a restaurant owner, I used Cuban Pizza as an example. It breaks my heart. They didn't agree with the guidelines, so they went against them and they got shut down. It's not an excuse. Politics are not an excuse to not wear a mask, to not follow state guidelines, regulations. It's just not. And like they said, it's up to us to stop this current surge until the vaccine comes. Think about it like this. We just need to hold off, until we get the vaccine. That's all it is at this point, is we know it's coming soon, like actually soon. We have basically proof that a vaccine is coming soon. We just need to wait for it. And that's all we got to do.
For sure. But something we actually can't really wait for is the fact that, Ryan, a lot of schools are starting to the students are starting to suffer with Zoom learning and online learning, and it's becoming a problem with grades, people starting to fail, and people starting to just feel like school's not their thing right now. And I know, as two college students, and Kyle, chime in, you're a college student as well. I know you just gave me a funny reaction, but none of the viewers can see that unless they're tuning in on Facebook Live, which you can do, or tune in on YouTube later. But as college students, we know this far too well, that we're getting Zoom fatigue and things like that, and it's a struggle to keep in class. We are, for people that aren't at Montclair State, we are in finals week currently right now. The last finals day is next Monday, which is always so odd to me that it's on like a Monday, but no matter what, yeah, we're getting to the end, but it's been a struggle. And I want us to talk a little bit about like our feelings and thoughts about that a little bit, because this was an article posted in AP News, and I think it's pretty accurate for every school, whether you're in elementary, middle, high school, or college. A lot of people are experiencing this. And you could even say as teachers or professors are experiencing this as well. So, Kyle, because Ryan was just talking for a little bit, talk to me a little bit about your learning experience and everything. How have you feel like you've been doing during this like Zoom since March kind of situation?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not sure how much opinion I can put in, because this entire semester, I still don't have a single grade in any of my classes. So.
Well, that's a mood.
Yeah, I mean,
Shout out
granted,
to all the professors that don't use Canvas for some reason.
Yeah.
but granted, I am an art student, so maybe that has something to do with it. But grade wise, I can't speak for this semester, but learning experience in general, it's been pretty rough some days. Like some days are pretty easy, but there are other days, especially on Tuesdays when I have two classes nearly back to back, where it's just I can't do this. I can't. I definitely have more of a hard time focusing and stuff like that, especially now that I have two monitors. And I recently talked about this in my show. I made it sound like I have two monitors to do work. That's not the case. I have one monitor for the class and then like literally anything else but schoolwork on the other one.
I love that. I really do. And that's so accurate.
Kyle,
Yeah.
no, you need to be academic.
I am. Usually I'm doing other homework during class, which
Fair
is
enough.
probably bad, but I don't know.
No. I
Well,
think
no,
that's totally
it's
accurate and it's
yeah.
fine. I think it's fine and it's totally acceptable and understandable. I don't think anybody is actually like completely thriving right now as much as
Yeah.
we might like seem like we're doing okay. I think at the same time we're all experiencing like I really don't want to go to class today. Do I have to go? Do I have to sit through this? Can I put myself on mute? Can I turn my camera off? Like there's a lot of just like I don't want to be there. And we're missing that human interaction in person, chatting with friends in class and working in groups and just discussing with the professor and having more of that intimate classroom setting, I guess is the good word for it.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of that. There's like I have 5 classes this semester. People kind of talk socially in one of them. A lot of the other times, everybody is just silent for a good 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've noticed it even some of my classes, like I have some teachers that are still having class this week. And one of my professors, like last week, at the end of last week, she's like, is anybody like participating? Does anybody want to participate? And we're all just so tired and we
Yeah.
don't want to do it anymore. And we're just kind of like ready for the semester to end and take a break again. Because staring at your computer all day long and it's just not the greatest experience. But Ryan, I want to hear about like your experience a little bit because you are a senior that's graduating this semester and not next semester. So how has this been like your last semester here, like at Montclair, but also talk a little bit about your classes and everything.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to touch on myself, but I'm also going to touch on how this has been affecting not just college students, but kind of, I guess personally, I to wrap up how I feel about this whole these unprecedented times we're
These
in,
unprecedented
as all
times.
of the ads on my Hulu keep telling me. I think the best way I can sum it up is when I graduate, if I have a ceremony, which I believe I will, when I decorate my cap, I'm planning on basically writing on my cap, I graduated from Zoom University. And it's because if there's one thing to kind of put a somewhat positive spin on it, as hard as it's been, um, this is kind of, I want to say, standardized a lot of people's college experiences. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So let me use the example. My best friend, Nick, he lives in Maryland and he goes to University of Maryland. University of Maryland and Montclair State University are two drastically different schools. University of Maryland is it's a huge school. Campus wise, they have a whole like underground like walking thing with like a Taco
What?
Bell and like a bunch of classes and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. And we don't have that here at Montclair, but at Montclair, you can walk to the edge of campus, look out over mountains and New Jersey rolling hills and see the New York skyline.
Okay, and to cut in right there, I walked past it this morning, a beautiful, beautiful sky over the skyline, and it's I think that it could get anybody to come to Montclair just for that view, honestly. But continue. I just wanted to chime in
Yeah.
and say that.
And you can see it from the station too. You can see
Mhm.
it from our office at WMSC.
It's a nice view.
Our windows look out over the New York skyline. They're very, and just size wise and obviously academic learning wise, the schools are very different. But what I've noticed is him and I have very similar experiences now when it comes to classes. We both have online classes where we Zoom in. We both have times where our professors cut class super short because there's no in-class work. So they just say, hey, go and, do your project or whatever. And we're all experiencing the whole, professors don't like posting their grades thing because we're no longer handing in physical things that we get a physical grade back. All in all, I think it's kind of standardized the college experience for a lot of people. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm still kind of out in the open on that. I'd love to hear our listeners' thoughts. You can tweet us at WMSC on Twitter using the hashtag Morning Buzz, or if you disagree with me, you can angry tweet me at Ryan the Trick on Twitter. But
I feel
I
like
think,
Ryan just throws any way to just angry tweet him.
yeah, go
Every
ahead.
show.
I assume if somebody ever tweets me, it's going to be an angry tweet. That's really the reason why I do it. Because if I ever get tweeted at by somebody, it's not going to be a, hey, you're doing great. It's going to be a, hey, I don't like you. Most definitely.
If you love cats more than dogs, feel free to angry tweet me at.
Yeah, there you go. But, all in all, I think that has been my personal experience with it is on the bright side, kind of, it has standardized the college experience for a lot of people. Do I wish that I was on campus? Absolutely. I love Montclair State. I love the school. I'm not just saying that because I work at their radio station. I don't have to say that because I've trashed Montclair on air before. But I do think that as much as I would like to be on campus, it's a necessary evil. I would much rather learn from home, and I hope a lot of other college students feel like this. Any of you guys or girls or don't identify, listen to the station. I hope you agree with me when I say this. Is I would rather have off-campus online learning than go to campus and see my school crash and burn because of COVID. As much as you can say about Montclair, I will be honest, seeing the trends of all the other schools, I almost bet money that Montclair would have closed before Halloween or by Halloween. And we made it all the way through Thanksgiving. So props. That's all I got to say on the personal side of that matter. Props, Montclair. But kind of bringing it back to just schools in general, it is as college students, let's be honest, as hard as college courses can be, I think learning in college is a lot easier on average than learning in, say, like high school or middle school.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to online learning. And
Yeah.
statistics are showing that too. For an example, principal of Oregon's McNary High School, Eric Jesperson, he actually said that 38% of all grades in the high school in late October were failing. 38% of all grades in a high school were failing, compared to 8% normally. That is a drastically large increase. I just want to let that sink in for people. That is over 4 times the amount of that. That's an over a 4 times increase of the amount of students who are failing. 38%, over a third of the school failing. And these are high school students, This is not like and this is not a bad school either. I mean, an 8% normal failing rate might sound bad, but honestly, for high school students, that's not bad. That's fine. I would argue maybe even average. That said, seeing that, it's like, wow, I cannot imagine going through high school, because in college, you have a little bit more freedom when it comes to scheduling. You're not sitting in front of a computer for 8 straight hours unless you're crazy like me and you schedule 3 back to back to back 2.5-hour classes on a Tuesday.
This is a true story, by the way.
This is a
for our
true story.
listeners.
This is what this. If you wonder why I'm not on the Tuesday buzz and why Amanda produces that day, that's why. But I think I feel bad kind of for a lot of these high school students and a lot of these middle school students and elementary school students, especially, who are going through this, because it's like, yeah, as college students, we want to have more freedom. We want to have the, I say in air quotes, college experience, a lot of which is social. But in high school, if you think about it, going to school, as much as your teachers drill you, let's all be honest, all our teachers drilled us, high school or school is not about socializing, it's about learning. No, absolutely false. Read any like psychology or education or psychology of education like book ever, and you will know that a lot of public learning has social aspects to it, and the fact that that's been taken away, I would argue, is one of the reasons why a lot of these kids are failing. And we've also seen reading levels drop. We've seen average math ability drop. Um, and you also have to think about how hard this is for kids with learning, not just like learning disabilities like ADD, but maybe more severe learning disabilities, and also English learners, people who are just learning the language, you know. So I think all in all, it's been pretty tough on schools, and I think it's something that not a lot of I thankfully in the past months people have been noticing, like, hey, we knew this was going to be hard on our kids, but we did not realize how hard, like really truly how tough it would be on kids.
Yeah.
I will say, so going back to the college thing, I want to kind of talk a little bit about my experiences a little bit, looking at it a positive and a negative lens. So positively, besides like, convenience that I just have to log on to a Zoom link and I have to just struggle to find what Zoom link I'm using for today's class. I think a positive is I feel like we've had a lot more opportunities to either connect with professors and also uh have guest speakers and stuff. I had one class that ended last semester that I had at least like 4 or 5 guest speakers come in from March to just the end to the middle of May, come in and talk to us about like the profession and stuff. And I thought that was amazing. So I had the opportunity to zoom in with those people in a class setting when normally they'd be working 24-hour day. You know what I'm saying? And like even here at the station, we've been able to interview people and talk with people more on a regular basis because everybody's stuck in the same boat. It's not like it's just this county or just this state or anything. It's the whole country and globe going through the same thing. And so I think that's been an awesome moment to kind of like to be able to have that in a sense. But I also think negatively, I don't know if you guys could relate to this as well, but I feel like some of these teachers put a little more pressure on you because you're home, because they're like, you're home, so you have time for it, or whatever the case may be. And I think a lot of people that are in elementary school and high school could probably relate to that too, because they're like, you're home, you have the time, you're not doing anything, you can't go anywhere, so like you might as well have time to do this work or anything like that. I know I have a few professors like that now, and that's kind of hard to deal with as well, because like, you're just trying you're just trying to do what you got to do. You're going through a global pandemic. If you're working, you're doing that as well, and it's a lot of stress. And I think this is definitely a time where a lot of anxiety is peaking, and we could see that with those stats as well. But it's a stressful time, so I feel like the failing of classes and stuff and the struggling in school not and having that Zoom fatigue is not uncommon, or not, I don't know, like not a problem in a sense, if that makes any sense. Like it's a problem, but it's like I'm trying to think of the right word. Do you have the right word for me, Ryan? Like not like it's a problem, but it's also like it's something we're all dealing with and we're all trying to manage together, and some people are managing differently than others.
Yeah, I think kind of what I was saying earlier, it's turned schooling into in a lot of ways a very standardized experience. To any professors who are listening, I know some Montclair State professors listen to the Buzz. To any professors who are listening, any teachers, any even students who are planning on becoming teachers, I do encourage you one thing, coming from a student and coming from someone who works in media and has been like reading these kinds of articles and studying this stuff throughout the course of the pandemic, I mean, I really truly encourage you, try and understand that just because we are home all the time doesn't necessarily mean we have more time to do work.
Yeah.
The biggest pet peeve I've noticed amongst college students, when it comes to a professor, is if the professor doesn't really get that students are taking other classes. I know people who take, I mean, my friend Amor is a music major, and she takes like 11 classes a semester because that's just how the music major works. Some classes are only worth 1 credit, and you need like a minimum, I believe, 12 credits to be considered a full-time student, which normally is only 4 classes. But if your classes are only worth 1 credit, then you have a problem. So really, if there's one thing I can tell the professors and all the teachers out there, is try and understand that more work does not necessarily equate to better learning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. And I know that's obviously not an excuse, but we'll wrap the story with this. Sometimes there's not much you can do to really help the situation that we are currently in. I
Mhm.
think, and an article we'll be talking about after the break puts it best. Remote learning is less of a sprint and more of a marathon. You kind of just need to endure. And best advice I could give to any other students out there who are listening is, and I never thought I would be saying this because God knows up until this year I've been terrible at it, is time management.
Mhm. Time
Yeah.
And I
management
think that
is
is
key.
something we can all agree on.
Yeah, time management is key, and yeah, just know, students out there and professors, we're almost there.
Yeah, we're
We're almost
almost
there.
there.
It's almost winter break, and then also hopefully soon enough, like we said earlier, the vaccine will be coming out, and maybe we will get back to in-person learning more sooner than we hope.
Exactly.
And with that, we are going to take a short little break. But stick around because we'll be coming back with a story about 8 things we won't have to do during NJ's second coronavirus wave. And we're going to also talk about Warner Brothers streaming all 2020 movies and a Christmas star appearing in
Ooh.
the sky for the first time in 800 years. This is 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Stay with us.
Cyber attacks, nuclear war, security dilemmas. It's the stuff of the biggest blockbusters Hollywood has to offer. But it's also the stuff of the minor in global security and diplomacy here as part of the political science department at Montclair State University. You don't have to be a political science major to sign up for the minor, though. We have students who are majoring in business, jurisprudence, computer programming, and so many other areas. You just have to be ready to expand your horizons and your worldview in order to deepen your understandings of your possibilities as a global citizen. The minor will foster your knowledge about the causes and dynamics of peace and security, the complexities of the 21st century security environment, the study of industrialized and emerging market societies, and so much more. The minor requires only 18 credits, which is 6 classes, 3 required and 3 electives in political science. Now you may be asking yourself, what can I do with a minor in global security? You can go into the corporate world, foreign service, work for international organizations like the UN, think tanks, you could do nonprofits, you could do anything with this minor. This minor will help you maximize your employment opportunities in the fields of diplomacy, security, human rights, international law, trade policy, and so much more. If you have any questions, email Professor Toro Carnivali at the Political Science and Law Department. You can drop by his office in Dixon 204, or you can get more information by checking out the political science page on www.montclair.edu.
Hey, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, where music stays cool. Cooler than a dog on a skateboard. Okay, I take that back, but we're still pretty cool.
And we are back here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey. This is the Morning Buzz, the Monday edition. I am still your host, Amanda Marino, joined with my lovely co-host, Ryan Trick, and our news contributor, Kyle Pepitone. So, Ryan, do you want to check out this next story?
Amanda, I think I would enjoy checking out this next
All right,
story. This is
all
from
right.
NJ.com. We're going to be talking about 8 things we won't have to do during NJ's second coronavirus wave. For some reason, recently I've been saying corovis.
I
Like my
was stumbling
brain
on
wants to
coronavirus
say,
earlier too.
yeah,
So
my brain wants to say corovis for some reason during NJ's second coronavirus wave. This is a small list of things provided by NJ.com of things we can discuss and look forward to. And whether you agree or disagree with them, that one's up to you. Feel free to ready that angry tweet. That said,
I
number
can't,
one,
Ryan.
so we won't expect things to go back to normal right away. This is obviously something we've been talking about, previously during this show and also during the shows of last week, especially as we're getting more and more news about a vaccine coming out. So things won't go back to normal, I think, ever. That said, what I mean by that, by normal, is I think the pandemic has caused a lot of things to become normal. I think mask wearing for a lot of people is still going to be normal. I think I said this forever ago is masks are going to become a fashion thing. This was back when people were just wearing really like surgical masks. And now, I mean, if you check us out on Facebook, Amanda here is wearing what is that? It's like a cute
Zebras.
pink with like, what is that on it? Are those
Zebras.
whales? Those are
Zebras.
zebras. I can't see because we're on Zoom. But it's like, and we saw, I think early on, political figures, like, and women in the fashion industry wearing matching masks with suits and dresses.
Yeah.
So I think when we say things won't go back to normal right away, I don't think things will ever go back to 100% how they were before the pandemic.
We learned things. That's what
Yeah,
happens in life.
we learned
learn.
things, and I think one thing a lot of the world has learned is, man, you can really spread germs easily without even trying. I think we're going to see a lot more health and safety measures, really just everywhere.
I wouldn't be shocked if like keeping the masks was a thing of like flu season and stuff. If someone feels sick but they still need to go out and do stuff, like they might just wear a mask.
Yeah,
You know?
I think wearing a mask, as much as a lot of people don't agree with wearing masks, somehow still don't agree with wearing masks.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of people are going to continue doing it. I know that during flu season, I'll do it. Heck, I might do it during the winter because masks keep your face warm during the winter.
Yes.
So you're both staying safe and keeping your face warm. And if you have a cute mask, it looks fashionable, So that's our first one. Second one, kind of leading into that, there won't be as much fretting over mask wearing. I do think, as I just said, a lot more people will be open to wearing masks, like you said, Amanda, during flu season, or if they're sick. I mean, heck, even personally, I might wear one next time I go into New York. There's a lot of people in New York. This is after
Sure.
the pandemic's over. I'll still probably wear a mask going into New York City.
I'll take the next. Oh.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say I'll take the next one if you want to talk about. I'll talk the next point if you want.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. All right. So it's not necessary to stay in total isolation, which I think is really important to realize. The first few like weeks and months of the pandemic, we really didn't know anything about this virus. And now that we've kind of grown and we've kind of been able to like learn a little bit more about it, we know that we don't need to stay in complete isolation. I know it was hard because this article mentions about how Easter and Passover, the holidays this year, were really hard for people because they were alone. I know I was just with my mom, and most people weren't able to gather in any sense. Now we're kind of able to gather in a sense that we know, like what we know what's okay and what's not okay. Like I know for Thanksgiving, I gathered with some family members, but we wore masks when we weren't eating and things like that. And we figured that out. And we also saw that in the fall, people were gathering outside. And if outside you don't mind sitting in the freezing cold, there you go. You can go outside, which is nice. We definitely know a lot more about this virus now. We know people have been quarantining before they see people. And that's another way people have been able to see friends and family, which is fine too. We also know now that we could take the groceries inside right away.
Oh, man.
I know this was for a lot of people. And I know me personally, I was cleaning down some groceries at the start of this. people were leaving their groceries in their garage to kill the virus, and also to like maybe scrubbing down with wipes and things like that. We know now that it's extremely rare that it's going to stay on, the virus is going to stay on any products you get from the grocery store, because chances are the time you grab it, bring it to the belt at the grocery store, and then bring it home and touch it again, there's going to be like nothing there. And if there is,
Yeah.
it's like this rarely rare instance. But basically,
Yeah.
the virus is airborne, not something you're just going to be able to touch, if that
Yeah,
makes
it was
sense.
found a couple months into the pandemic, when this was becoming a really big problem. Some people were even pouring like very hardcore chemical cleaners on their
Yes.
groceries and getting
Yes.
sick from that. Um, and to some of you, it may sound like, oh, that's crazy, but again, we all need to remember this is at the beginning of the pandemic. A lot of us didn't know anything.
And also,
We do know now it's extreme. The surface transmission rate is extremely rare. It's very low.
I do want to chime in and say, though, it is important still to, no matter what, wash your fruit and vegetables, because we know people were not doing that. And I will be the first to witness, the first to admit, seeing at the grocery store a week ago a man taking grapes, pulling his mask down, eating grapes mid-store with them not being washed. And that was like a week ago. So I'm going to send that out as a reminder, as a PSA to all our listeners and viewers. Please wash your fruit and vegetables. It is
If
not
you
healthy.
if you went to Whole Foods about a week ago and you're listening to this and you were eating grapes, we saw you. Shout
I
out to
saw
you, random Whole Foods guy.
That was something I was doing even before the pandemic. I was washing fruits and
I'm just
vegetables.
reminding everyone, Kyle, because apparently people, even
I-
in the middle of a pandemic, can't seem to figure that one out.
Well, that's not even for viral stuff. That's just like
That's just
all
like,
the wonderful 100% organic pesticides we dump on everything we, produce here in America. Whatever. People are going to get mad. Oh, I eat fully organic farmers market food. Yeah, no. Welcome to the world of nothing is organic. Like 95% of what you eat is processed in some way.
but
Bring it to you.
anyway, getting off that topic real fast, I do want to mention, though, we did already talk about remote learning. That's obviously been a thing that's, like Ryan said, is less of a sprint and more of a marathon. We've kind of learned our way around remote learning. At first, it was an extreme struggle, but I feel like as time has gone on, even though we might still have issues and stuff with professors and students learning, we have this amazing technology in front of us, like Zoom and Skype and FaceTime, and it's just been enhancing our learning ability. And it's also been, we've been finding other apps that have been done virtually, and it's it's not the worst possible case, if anything, with that. And now we kind of know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. And they did say, they interviewed some teachers and professors, and they did say that one professor or one teacher did say, quote, "We know now that we need to over communicate with our students, even if there's nothing new to say. They prefer constant communication rather than our waiting until we have a definitive answer for all of their questions." And also they said, quote, "We know that listening to our students' frustrations is better than telling them everything will be all right. They appreciate us more and believe we are sincere when we speak to them." End quote. And, that is definitely something that I feel like we kind of missed, like in our last topic. So I'll bring it up just briefly for all the professors and really for everybody out there. It's like, listen, you don't need to keep reminding people it's going to be okay. Obviously, if people are in like, a desperate situation, please tell them that it's going to be okay. Don't tell people it's going to be the end of the world, because it's not. Be logical, be reasonable, be like, yeah, this whole thing, it's not great. I hate it when ads, personally, I hate it when ads say these unprecedented times or these uncertain times. I want an ad to say, yeah, COVID like sucks. It's not great, but hey, buy a car. Like, it's like, I would rather an ad say that than an ad say, in these unprecedented times, you could whatever, release your whatever. It's about being honest, I think, and people appreciate honesty and sincerity. So for teachers and for students, be honest and open in your communication.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Kind of moving on. And this has definitely been something that this has been a hot topic here on the Buzz for a long time now, is we don't have to eat every meal at home. So outdoor dining, indoor dining, and remember, and this is coming from someone who delivers like food. I do Grubhub on the side because, as much as I love the station, as we've said before, we like to raise money because we don't get paid for being here. I do Grubhub on the side, and it's like you can get delivery. You can get takeout. You can support your local restaurants and businesses still while staying safe. If you do eat inside, please understand that just because a restaurant, so this is a common misconception I want to let everybody know. Just because a restaurant says, hey, we can fit at 25% capacity of people, that capacity is not their maximum capacity for seating. That is max capacity for fire code. This is something I need to remind people. So a building's like fire code, you cannot have more than X amount of people. It's 25% of that, which might be like a third or half of a restaurant's actual available seating. This is something that I think a lot of people don't know. And I just kind of want to throw that out there. So if you are planning on eating inside, just please be careful. But that said, you don't have to eat every meal at home. Or every meal doesn't have to come from home. You can support your local restaurants by getting takeout. Also, getting a grocery delivery doesn't require hours of refreshing pages for hours and hours. Thankfully, that has died down. Throwback to when toilet paper was almost used as currency.
For sure.
I'm just thinking back. Remember that toilet paper truck fire story?
Yes.
It was like the saddest story in the
or
news
Thursday
because
buzz,
they were
yeah.
like, wow, so much toilet paper gone to waste. A little bit of lighthearted fun. And then, of course, we won't have to fear that a vaccine is several years away. All wrapping it back to hope. Again, vaccine's coming out soon. You just got to wait for it. So those are a couple things we know as the second wave approaches. Now,
are you good?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, to kind of shift gears a little bit, I think it's important to talk about some movies. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah.
I think as much as we've been home, we've been able to thankfully have content from Netflix and Hulu and a lot of other streaming services, which has been amazing, because if we didn't have that, I don't know how any of us would get through this pandemic, in all honesty. But we're not hiding anything, and nobody's hiding anything when we find that, movie theaters were struggling before the pandemic, and it's more obvious now because not a lot of people really want to step inside during a pandemic either.
You got some people.
We got some people, but with that in mind, last Thursday, Warner Brothers Pictures announced that all of the 2021 films, including a new Matrix movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, and the Lin-Manuel Miranda adaptation of In the Heights, will stream on HBO Max at the same time the film plays in theaters. So this is just like a big move for the theater and movie industry, showing that you could get the new release at your house the same day you can go see it in theaters. I know me 10 years ago would have never gotten that and would have been so upset that I had to go sit in a theater and wait, or just wait like 3 months before it came out. So This is, as much as it's exciting to have that access, because I know I will be watching In the Heights. I'm very excited for that. As much as I'm excited for that, I also am kind of sad that theaters are slowly kind of starting to kind of go out of existence, in a sense. I mean, we'll always still have like theaters. I know there always will be, but it just might not be as popular. We might have not things like AMC anymore. We saw AMC kind of went bankrupt during the middle of this.
Yeah.
So
they
what do you
filed for bankruptcy.
What do you guys think about this?
I think it's difficult. I'm a person who I enjoy going to a movie theater, not necessarily just for the movie, mainly for like the experience, going to see it with friends. And I think that's something a lot of us miss. It's almost like when you go to a concert, half the fun of going to a concert is going there with other people. It's not just about the stage, just like in a theater. It's not just about seeing this movie on a huge screen with surround sound. It's about going with your friends and having that shared experience of seeing a movie with a lot of people. And I don't think theaters are ever going to go fully out of business, especially throughout the pandemic. We've seen a huge surge, or I should say resurgence, in drive-through theaters. That's been an enormous thing that's been going on, is people are going back and seeing drive-through theaters. So I think that maybe even drive-through theaters, I wouldn't be surprised if they started actually showing new movies that are coming out. But I do think the whole convenience of streaming thing is going to it's going to take a lot of people out of the theater. So I do think the theater industry is going to have to do something to kind of keep itself from fully going under. What do you think, Kyle?
My thing is kind of alongside yours. It's more the experience and stuff, but my thing is also, I know like this wasn't their fault, like theaters and stuff, but with the way their prices were going with the snacks and tickets and stuff, this almost seemed inevitable, like sooner or later. So I think that like prices are probably something they're going to have to look at if they want to try and stay above water for all this.
Yeah, I think, part of the problem with theaters, with actual movie theaters, is their profit margins come from snacks. That's why a lot of theaters don't allow you to bring in food. Right. And that's why their food is so like just crazy expensive. A lot of their stuff comes from snacks. And ticket sales don't get them as much money as usually they need. Right. Which is crazy, but that's also why a lot of theaters have those things. I think AMC has like a membership where you can like see X amount of movies for this price.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, that's fantastic because they're not trying to get you in there for the tickets. They barely make money on the tickets. They want you to come in over and over again. So you keep buying a, $20 box of chicken tenders that they threw in the microwave.
I will say, I feel like with this year in itself, I feel like it almost shaped us for being okay with streaming in a sense. I mean,
Definitely.
Let alone not just the streaming, but I'm even thinking about the fact that, we're sitting on Zoom calls all the time. We're seeing everything not being perfect anymore. We're seeing like people walking in your Zoom call, and we're seeing a lot of that stuff. And we've kind of just become okay with that. And that's fine. And I think that's great. But now we've also become okay with streaming a movie that should be shown in the theaters on our cell phone. That's so tiny, and you're like holding it and not hearing the surround sound and all that. And I think we've become like okay with that in a sense. And I know that's like a sad thing to kind of think about, but in a sense, this year has kind of taught us about that like we almost don't care.
Right. Yeah. Trolls did that too, like mid-pandemic, right? Instead of the theaters, they went to streaming, and they made like way more money than they would have if they put it in the theater.
Yeah. And you also had the whole, although there's a lot of controversy around the movie, you had the whole Mulan thing. Not only did you have to have a Disney Plus subscription already to just have access to the platform, but once you had access to the platform, you needed to pay another price on top of that to access the movie. Yeah,
and it just actually came out now where you don't have to access it with the money. Like it took till December.
Exactly.
But now you could actually watch it, because I know a lot of my friends are finally getting to watch it.
Which is an interesting model if you think about it. It's the same thing as if it were in, regular theaters. You either pay to go to the theater or you wait for it to come out on your TV.
It's smart, but it also can be a kind of a big issue, especially when, maybe you don't really want to spend it, and that turns you off from watching the movie totally.
Exactly.
But that's also a discussion point we could have for another show here at 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Want to get that top of the hour in there.
That said, it is the top of the hour.
Yes.
Here on the Morning Buzz. We had a fantastic show today. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoy the show, seriously, do let us know. Our socials are super active. Our digital marketing team has some wicked people on it. We got at WMSC on Twitter. You can use the hashtag Morning Buzz, or you could just let us know that you like what we're doing here at the
Or,
station.
always angry tweeting Ryan is always an option.
Or please angry tweet me. I know
But-
some people at the station do it occasionally out of, as a joke, but I am at Ryan the Trick on Twitter.
But thank you for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow from 8 to 9 with Tara and Philippe, and we'll be back for the rest of the week as well from 8 to 9 here on 90.3 on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and I've been Amanda Marino.
I've been Ryan Trick, also on iHeartRadio.
And I'm permanently glued to my chair, Kyle Pepitone.
We hope you all have a great day. We'll listen to you next time.